What if mainstream medicine isn't actually neutral when it comes to family? What if it's structurally aligned with preventing pregnancy, but surprisingly resistant when you want to restore it? Why is it easier to suppress ovulation than it is to optimize it? Why is sterilization streamlined, but fertility restoration is treated like an inconvenience? And why are couples who want more children often met with subtle resistance instead of support? If you're a listener of this podcast, chances are you've felt this. Maybe you couldn't fully articulate it. Maybe you just sense something's off. Maybe you felt the dismissal or subtle pressure, but didn't have the information to put all the pieces together. Well, we're calling it out today, so let's dive in. Welcome to Faith Over Pharma, the podcast for women who want a different way to heal. I'm Susan Gladstein, holistic health practitioner and functional nutrition specialist, and here we explore faith-led, holistic approaches to hormones, energy, and symptoms that just keep getting brushed off. If that's you, you're in the right place. If you've been on birth control for years, or your husband had a vasectomy, and now you're trying to conceive and it's not happening, can we acknowledge something? We've been told shutting fertility down is simple, but nobody really talks about what it takes to build it back up. Hormones don't just bounce back. Sperm doesn't always instantly recover. Your body isn't a light switch. And that is why I created the Rooted Fertility Audit. Because before you jump into treatments, you deserve to understand what birth control, sterilization, or years of suppression may have actually shifted in your body. We look at the full picture and create a real plan, not just another protocol or prescription. If you want to rebuild your foundation the right way, go to susangladstein.com/fertility to start your audit. All right, this is probably going to ruffle a few feathers, maybe wake some people up, but I kind of want to start here. First of all, I don't believe that most doctors wake up in the morning thinking, how can I undermine families today? But I do believe the mainstream medical system is structurally aligned with preventing pregnancy and not nearly as invested in restoring it. And those are two very different things. You don't really notice it when you're trying to avoid pregnancy, but you feel it when you're praying for one. There is an entire infrastructure that's built around suppression. Birth control is widely available. It's covered by insurance, prescribed very quickly. It's offered for acne, cramps, irregular cycles, convenience. When a couple says, we want to restore fertility after a vasectomy, or we want to optimize ovulation instead of suppress it, suddenly the path gets foggy. Suddenly it's expensive or it's optional. It's not as streamlined. And that's not random. I believe that reveals priorities. Sterilization is treated as routine. Now, hear my heart on this. I drove my husband when we were dating to get a vasectomy because we decided that the 5 kids we had between us was enough. But when we went to restore it, it's very expensive to have a vasectomy reversal in most cases, but it's treated as optional. And I think that should make us all pause. So I kind of want to talk first about what birth control actually does. I did a whole podcast episode on this too. You should definitely go back and listen to and share with others. But we're told it regulates our cycles. Physiologically, it suppresses ovulation. Hormonal birth control shuts down the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. That means there's no LH surge, no egg is released, no corpus luteum forms, and no natural progesterone spike follows. That monthly bleed on birth control is actually a withdrawal bleed, not a true ovulatory cycle. And that distinction matters. Progesterone is not just a pregnancy hormone. It influences mood stability, sleep quality, nervous system regulation, thyroid interaction, and bone health. When ovulation is chronically suppressed, progesterone is suppressed too. Research shows that hormonal contraception can increase sex hormone binding globulin, lowering free testosterone. It alters thyroid binding globulin. It's associated with depletion of nutrients like B6, B12, folate, magnesium, and zinc. There's large Danish cohort studies that have shown associations between hormonal contraception and increased risk of depression, particularly in adolescents. Is birth control evil? Well, in my opinion, yes. Is it hormonally neutral? No. It's an endocrine override. And what is rarely asked is why the cycle is struggling in the first place. Was it mineral depletion, thyroid dysfunction, insulin resistance, chronic stress, inflammation? Usually it's just, hey, you've got this problem, here's the solution, right? But instead of investigating the signal that's causing the problem, the answer is often just silence it. And honestly, you can't really heal what you continually suppress. Ovulation is a vital sign. Psalm 139 tells us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that design includes feedback loops and hormonal rhythm. And if you override a feedback loop long enough, the system loses its ability to regulate efficiently. I can't tell you how many clients I've had who have struggled with conception. Their providers told them that they could just stop birth control and get right to trying to conceive and have no problems whatsoever. And then they're stuck and can't get pregnant and don't know why. And so many of my clients actually come from the vasectomy reversal community, which obviously we ourselves had a vasectomy, then a reversal. And what has really been interesting to me and not well discussed that I kind of wanted to bring up today is that vasectomy is framed as simple, right? It's quick, it's safe, it's reversible. It's, a contraceptive procedure. Like that in of itself is pretty effective, right? But it's not physiologically invisible. In case you don't know, a vasectomy blocks sperm transport, but it does not stop sperm production. The testes continue producing millions of sperm daily. Those sperm are just then reabsorbed in the body. And research shows that about 60 to 80% of men develop antisperm antibodies after vasectomy because sperm, which are normally protected behind the blood testes barrier, become exposed to the immune system. Antisperm antibodies don't always cause infertility, but they do reflect immune activation. Obstruction can also increase oxidative stress in the reproductive tract, and over time, sperm DNA fragmentation may rise. Elevated DNA fragmentation is associated with lower pregnancy rates, higher miscarriage rates, and reduced embryo quality. But fragmentation is rarely tested unless a couple pushes for it. And I cannot tell you how many semen analysis I review on a daily basis where no one was ever told or educated about the impacts a vasectomy would have on their hormones, their fertility, all the things. I mean, most mainstream sources say that a vasectomy doesn't affect testosterone long term. And for many men, total testosterone remains within the range. But I see it over and over and over and over that when a man gets a vasectomy, his testosterone tanks. Now, don't even get me started on the fact that over the last 20 years, the normal, quote unquote, normal range for testosterone has dramatically decreased to the point where someone in the 200s now is considered normal. I will tell you that for optimal fertility, that is not good enough at all. And then we have all of these men who are in high stress environments daily. They're not sleeping well, and that just further impacts their testosterone, which then impacts their sperm health. But again, people are rarely told about how all of this works. They just want to know what supplement can they take to increase their testosterone. And a lot of times that is met with, here's a prescription for this pharmaceutical. But they don't actually address any of the other hormones that are all intertwined. In addition to that, people aren't even really talking about inflammation, chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation, which actually influences cell function, those cells that are responsible for testosterone production. And just because something doesn't stop hormone production doesn't mean that it leaves the hormonal ecosystem untouched. Blocking the pathway, again, very simple. Restoring the entire ecosystem is not. And yet, so many couples are told, well, you can just reverse it. And they don't have a conversation about inflammation, immune response, or even long-term sperm integrity. To me, that is not full informed consent. So we know birth control suppresses ovulation. The vasectomy blocks sperm transport. Both alter natural reproductive signaling pathways, but neither was designed for long-term optimization. They were designed for prevention. Prevention is standardized. Restoration is very individualized. And individualized medicine requires someone willing to look deeper than the normal reference range. So many couples think, oh, well, we just get this reversal done and it's going to flip the switch, it's going to be reconnected, and we'll be good to go to conceive right away. And month after month passes and it doesn't happen. The stress piles on, the concerns of your relationship, sex becomes very structured and scheduled. We don't actually get someone in our ear at the doctor's office typically talking about how to reduce oxidative stress, how to support our mitochondria, how to rebuild our mineral reserves, how to restore ovulatory strength or calm our immune reactivity. And most certainly not a discussion is had on how to regulate the nervous system. Restoration is slower because suppression is powerful. When God designed the body, He designed intricate systems, and those intricate systems respond to support. They respond to nourishment, they respond to alignment. So let's talk about support. Because I will tell you, the number one question I get asked, I see in Facebook groups, is what supplement should I take? And I will tell you that the supplement industry is huge, especially when it comes to fertility, because so many people are struggling with it. And I can't tell you also how many times I look at somebody's lab work and they've thrown all the supplements at their issues and it's not doing what they intended. But once you understand fertility as an ecosystem, not a switch, the question becomes, how do you strengthen the foundation while the body is restoring? And again, that's where I integrate phototherapy, specifically LifeWave patches, into foundational work. This is a powerful signaling tool for the body. If you've been on hormonal birth control for years, Your system has experienced ovulatory suppression, altered hormone binding proteins, and often increased oxidative stress. And for those of you who've had a vasectomy reversal, there's probably some immune activation, definitely inflammation, some tissue healing demands, and I always see oxidative stress that impacts sperm quality. So if you're trying to conceive, both partners really should be focusing on strong mitochondrial function, balanced inflammation, and healthy cellular signaling. And I'll tell you that the X39 patches, my number one go-to for most people is always LifeWave's X39 patch, because it works by stimulating your body to elevate its own GHK-Cu peptide. It's a copper peptide that's involved in antioxidant activity, tissue repair, collagen production, stem cell signaling, and the modulation of inflammation. GHK-Cu has been widely studied for its role in gene expression, wound healing, and regenerative signaling pathways. And this matters for fertility because oxidative stress directly impacts egg quality, sperm integrity, and mitochondria efficiency. In men, oxidative stress is one of the strongest contributors to sperm DNA fragmentation, as I mentioned. And in women, mitochondrial health is central to egg quality and progesterone production. So when we reduce oxidative stress and we improve cellular signaling, we improve the foundation. And fertility is all about the foundations. And I will tell you that phototherapy doesn't override anything in the system. It's not going to be impacted by anything. It truly just stimulates your body's own natural design rather than suppressing it. And when you pair that with mineral repletion, inflammation reduction, nervous system regulation, and hormone optimization, it truly becomes a powerful foundational support, especially if your body's experienced long-term suppression or obviously surgical interruption. And I could go on and on about all the success stories that I have seen, many, many miracles, lots of changes, far more quickly than a lot of supplement protocols, but truly one of the greatest gifts you can give to yourself and healthy foundations. So if you're in the season of trying to conceive and you feel like something's missed, you're not crazy. Prevention has a protocol, but restoration requires curiosity. You can have quote unquote normal labs and still not have optimal function. As I mentioned, fertility is not just a switch that you can flip back on. It's truly an ecosystem. And ecosystems require nourishment, oxygen, balance, and often time. Again, I want to say that I don't believe that most physicians are anti-family, but I will say that there is maybe a cultural thing here in the United States. When someone says, that they don't want children, the system fully supports that very quickly. When somebody says we want to have more children, especially later on, that tone definitely can shift. There's raised eyebrows. I know for us, having 2 babies in our 40s, people always tell us like, oh, I couldn't do that. I don't know. I definitely think it is a culture drift. I mean, scripture calls children a heritage from the Lord, not a burden, not an inconvenience, not a mistake. So if culture treats fertility as disposable, the systems will quietly follow. And I know that if you're listening to this, you probably have felt that same way. I believe that the modern mainstream medical system is not structurally built to prioritize family expansion. It's built to reduce risk, reduce liability, and reduce unintended pregnancy. It's not built to restore fertility 10 years after suppression. And that gap is where so many couples fall. So what do? We get informed. If you're in the season where you feel stuck, like you've done all the right things, your labs are normal, nothing's moving, maybe no one's truly listening to the full picture. That's exactly what the rooted fertility audit is for. Because restoration isn't about one number, it's about patterns, inflammation, oxidative stress, hormone signaling, mineral sufficiency, nervous system load, both the husband and the wife, not just one side of the equation. In my world, most people are focused on male fertility and often leave out the woman's side, which is counter to what most of the culture is always focused on, the woman being the issue, or that it's all on her to support pregnancy. But I am truly about working with the couple to build foundations that are truly going to leave a lasting legacy, not only for their family, but for future generations. And sometimes what changes everything isn't a prescription, it's clarity. Systems may prioritize suppression, but you can choose restoration. And if you're still listening, I have a feeling you already are. Thanks for listening to Faith Over Pharma. If this helped cut through the noise, share it with a friend who always asks, do you think this actually works? And if you're ready to go deeper through immersive retreats, phototherapy, or the Rooted Reset, you'll find your next steps at susangladstein.com.
Thanks for listening.